All right. So, yeah, thank you all so much for registering for this. And those of you who are definitely here live, like Mark said, throw your practice area and where you're logging in from over into the chat. We'll keep an eye on this throughout the presentation. If you have any questions about anything that Mark and I go over here, any of these 10 strategies, definitely throw that into the chat. If we don't see it immediately, we will definitely get to it at the end in about 30, 45-ish minutes. But basically, I mean, this is something that we do every year. We share with you our top 10 most important, what we think are some of the most important marketing strategies for your firm to be looking at in the upcoming year. To be honest, I think when we first started doing this, I didn't release this until January. And so like I keep moving it up, and which, everyone here just kind of benefits more from it. So a little bit about us. If you don't know, if you haven't joined us on any one of these before, we are Spotlight Branding. We are a content marketing agency, really focused on helping solo and small law firms increase the referrals that they get, attract the right kinds of clients for their firm, and just really help them see an overall higher ROI on other types of marketing that they do. Us specifically, our expertise is in that content marketing space. So we do blog writing, email newsletters, social media, video production, social media management, podcast production, and website design. So we will have a special offer for all of you at the end if you are interested in that. But I am joined by the founder and CEO of Spotlight Branding. This is his baby. This is, he built this up to everything that it is today.
Thanks, John.
And so, yeah.
Well, listen, before we get started, I appreciate, John, you sharing what we do, but I want to make it very, very clear to everyone that this webinar is not going to be a sales pitch. We're going to give you information over these next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, however long we go. I think we've got up to an hour, but I'll try to get you guys out of here faster. But we're gonna give away the secret sauce. We're gonna tell you how we do things. We're gonna give advice. So if you tuned in with any skepticism, I encourage you to lean in. Sure, those of you that want help, we'll tell you how we can help at the end. But we're here to give you guys value today. So let's get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into our first one, and that is embracing AI.
Shocking.
And, right? And we've internally had a big focus on this year. It's going to be something that's just going to continue to get more and more prominent. Mark, share with us, like, why have we internally been so focused on this?
Yeah. So listen, I'm sure you guys have been getting bombarded with AI webinars and things like that. So, I'm not going to spend too much time on this topic. And if you have a question about AI specifically around your law firm, feel free to drop it in the chat right now. We'll try to grab it. But look, I'm not here today to talk about anyone's feelings about AI. What I want to communicate, and the reason we put it on the list today, is because AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's a tool. And it's a tool that you can not only use in marketing. I mean, this is a marketing-focused webinar today, but it's a tool that you could use in multiple places in your firm. And so, like I said, we could do a whole webinar about AI, but you can use AI to create content. You can use AI to help you even figure out a marketing strategy. You could help AI. You could have AI help you create a marketing plan. And of course, it goes beyond just marketing, like I said. But I'll leave you guys with this. And again, if you got any AI questions specific to marketing or even in general, we'll do our best to answer. Drop it in the chat. But think of it like this. This is kind of like when Microsoft Office came out. Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and these were tools, Microsoft PowerPoint. And if somebody shows up to your firm and doesn't know how to use Word or Excel, you're going to kind of find that odd. And I think that in the next 5 years, AI is going to end up in the same place. These are just tools. They still require a human to use them, to leverage them, but they're going to become a mainstay in the tool belt that we use in the workplace. And it's definitely true in marketing. So just want to encourage you guys to really embrace it, figure out how to use it. What we've done as a company is we have a once a week meeting. We have an AI meeting actually once a week where as a team, we just kind of share what we've been trying and we learn from each other. That's a way that we're trying to keep momentum going with AI. But like I said, when it comes to marketing, AI can help you create content. It can help you do a marketing plan. You could even come to it and tell it that you know nothing about marketing and ask it to be your marketing strategic partner, you know? Anybody got any questions about AI before we move on? I'm sure there's plenty out there. Don't be shy. If you've got one, drop it in the chat, whether it's specific to marketing. Here we go from Anne. Thank you. Do you think AI could help create your practice area descriptions? Absolutely. Pretty easily, to be honest with you. You could grab something like ChatGPT and go in there and tell it what you want to do. Here's the thing when it comes to creating text through AI. It's all about how much information you give it to start. So for example, so let's go back to Anne here. Anne does estate planning, probate, okay, property insurance. So Anne, don't just ask it to create a description for estate planning, right? Go in there and say, give it some background. Hey, I'm an estate planning firm. What makes us unique is this. When I talk about my practice areas, I tend to focus on this and this. So I'm going to ask you to be my writing assistant and create practice area descriptions for me. Right. So you like give it, you like kind of tell it what it's going to be to you, and you tell a little bit about you and what makes you unique or your approach to the law. And then you tell it the practice area. And by the way, this is one of my best tips. Treat AI like a person in terms of the interaction. And what I mean by that is if it gives you something that you don't like, give it the feedback. If somebody on your team, if you ask someone on your team to write descriptions for your practice areas for you, and you didn't like something about them, you would just give that feedback to that team member and have them go back to the drawing board. Well, you can do that with AI. It spits something out. You can tell it it's too long, it's too short, it's too generic, it's too sophisticated. Give it the feedback and watch how quickly it takes your suggestions. So, yeah. All right, and then John, do you want to comment on this one real quick, and then we'll move on?
Yeah, so kind of what I've seen the difference between ChatGPT and Bard. ChatGPT's a little bit better of a writing tool. Bard is a little bit better of a research tool.
Yeah,
it still has pretty decent writing capabilities, but ChatGPT that's where it really excels. The knowledge base for ChatGPT, I think, only goes up to like September of 2021 or something.
Well, that's all changing right now, so we probably shouldn't even talk about that too much. Yeah, they just released some updates, but yeah, Bard is more of a research tool because it's using Google search. But if you want to create content, ChatGPT is the way to go.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, any other AI questions, throw them in the chat. We'll definitely get to them later on. But let's go ahead and go to our second of our 10 strategies here, and that is nurturing. And I know that's what we focus on a lot, just because I think, for law firms especially, like it's just such an underutilized aspect of their marketing. I know, Mark, you a couple of years ago, you had a chat with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he used the analogy of like hunting versus farming.
Yep.
And a lot of law firm owners are out there, they're always just hunting for new leads and trying to generate cold leads. And there's not enough of that farming and that nurturing of their existing audience.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So, like I said, guys, we've got 10 things to get through. So we're going to kind of go rapid fire and change gears on you quickly, but I'll do my best to transition smoothly. But what I want you to understand, from the couple minutes we're going to spend on this is, let me use some marketing language for you. Okay. And you're going to sound really smart talking to either your team or your marketing vendors if you get this language correct. And that's lead gen versus lead nurturing. Okay, lead gen or lead generation. So you probably know what lead gen is, even if you haven't called it that before. It's all the things that you might do to generate leads. It could be running Google ads. It could be SEO. I mean, even networking is a form of lead gen, right? Because you're meeting people that either could be leads or could be referral sources. That's all lead gen. It's the things that potentially create new business. But what often gets neglected is this other side of marketing that we call lead nurturing. And it's what you do after you generate a lead. In other words, it's the marketing you do to your existing list versus just trying to grow that list. And we're going to have some examples of nurturing throughout this presentation. So I'm not going to unpack a bunch of examples now, but I wanted you guys to understand this at a high level because, and here's the hook. Here's the thing I hope you hear from this presentation. You would be surprised how much business you could still get from your existing audience, from your existing database, without having to generate new leads. If you just stayed in touch, if you stayed top of mind. A bunch of you on the chat had more than one practice area you focused on, right? How good of a job are you doing reminding your past clients and your audience that you don't just do estate planning, you also do real estate, right? Okay, so nurturing is what you do with your existing audience, leads, referral sources, etc. And I mean, there's some stats out there that suggest that most law firms are only getting like a third of the business they could be getting from their existing database. And so this whole concept is called nurturing, where you continue to market to your existing list. That could be social media, it could be email marketing. Heck, I mean, people used to do birthday cards, holiday cards, all of that are forms of nurturing. Anne is rock and rolling with the questions in the chat. I really appreciate it. Someone's going to have to give her some run for her money. Otherwise, this is going to be a webinar just for her. But she asked, what's the new rule? It takes 7 touches to gain a client. Yeah, I think that's been around for a while. I mean, it's not perfect science, but there is that idea that it takes as many as 7 touch points to really get somebody to kind of have trust with your firm. So you're going to have people that move forward quickly, right? But you know, and it's not just to get a client. Sometimes it's to get a referral as well. Like, how many referrals are being left on the table because people just don't think of you at the right moment? Because I would even say to the rule of 7 touches, what if you do those 7 touches over 60 days? What about a year later? Like a year later, do you just expect that person to remember you if they need you or if they have a referral for you? So it's not just about 7 touches in the short term. Honestly, when I talk about nurturing, it's something that's ongoing. It never ends. Okay, so we'll talk about some of those examples in this presentation, but real nurturing never ends. You've got your database and you're always nurturing everyone because you never know who might have a need, who might be a referral source, who might be a client. So the 7 touch rule is good in the short term, but honestly, the best nurturing is the nurturing that's ongoing. Okay. John, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, honestly, I've seen other studies that I've seen like a number as high as like 18 touch points before people want to move forward. So, yeah, but I do agree that, you know, it's more about the ongoing thing. You can't just like get to a magic number and then just assume something's going to happen.
Yep.
Number 3, get more social. You know, social media, just, you know, more and more of a daily part of our lives. It's how a lot of your audience is consuming content. And so it's honestly just a really important place for you to be showing up. You know, just like 20, 30 years ago, you may have wanted to purchase a bunch of different billboards all over town to try to show up in front of as many people driving as you could. Well, now it's really more about social media. And honestly, for me, I think social media is way better than a billboard because you can change that messaging and you can, you know, convey a lot more information other than just your phone number every single day to a bunch of different people.
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect slide to come after nurturing because this is actually one of the marketing tools you can use for nurturing. And it's often one that I think needs to be reframed for law firms. So let's just zoom out real quick, everyone. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on social media strategy for a law firm. Okay. Number 1, don't look at it as a lead gen tool. Kind of going back to that language that we shared a minute ago, lead gen versus lead nurturing. Listen, maybe some of you out there have gotten business from social media. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I doubt that many law firms are getting sizable amounts of business from social media. I just don't think people are going onto social media looking for an attorney. So does that mean that law firms don't need a social media presence? No, it just means that it serves a different purpose than what you might initially think. Okay, social media is more of a tool to stay in touch with your network. It's also a tool to kind of get your name out there, build credibility. So, you know, we were talking about nurturing a second ago. Okay. We want your existing clients, referral sources, colleagues, etc. We want them to be the ones that actually follow your firm's social media accounts, because that becomes another place for you to stay in touch with them and nurture them and stay top of mind. Okay. So if you kind of shift your thinking of what the purpose of social media is, it becomes more valuable to your firm versus being this disappointing thing that doesn't necessarily create clients. Now, I can share a thought or two about what to do on social media. We have a couple comments coming in on the questions in chat, John. Anything worth grabbing?
Yeah, so we have another question here. When you talk about social media, are you talking about just Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or do you include TikTok in that?
Well, I mean, we're including everything in terms of when we talk about the purpose of social media, because any of these platforms can be used to stay in touch with people, right? So now what platforms you choose to be on is certainly a personal preference. It might depend on your target market, but obviously what you're going to post on one place might be different than what you post on another. Not that it necessarily has to be, but yes, I mean, absolutely. TikTok's included. It's a social media platform that people are on. Your clients or your referral sources are on these platforms. Granted, some more than others, but they're on these platforms. They might not be on there looking for a firm, but they're on there. And it's a way for you to kind of stay in touch and stay top of mind. Anne said grandma isn't on TikTok. But Anne, you know who is? Their kids and their grandkids are. And I know a lot of times when it comes to estate planning, probate, and things like that, the kids are often involved. But nonetheless, if you feel like your target market or your referral sources aren't on a certain social platform, fine. Don't do it. The purpose of this slide isn't to say you have to be on all the platforms. The purpose is to recognize that social media can be a place that you can put out content that's helpful to your audience, that keeps you top of mind, that reminds them what you do, so that, going back to slide 2, you're nurturing and you're making sure you don't miss business opportunities. Okay. Also think of it this way: when somebody is looking you up specifically, if you have a strong social media presence, that's another place for them to kind of take a closer look at your firm. And more people, when they're doing their research on a business that they're thinking about hiring or working with, they are extending their research beyond just a website. So there's also an element of understanding that this isn't going to lessen in the next 10 years. It's only going to become more prominent. So unfortunately, due to time constraints, I can't go too much into like what you should post and how often. We have a ton of free resources that actually dive into that. I think we even have like a social media template we can give you guys. So just drop a note in the chat or something at the end, and we can get you guys those free resources.
Yep. And yeah, before we go on to the next, I want to acknowledge Justin's question. I think you still responded to it, but just about how social media platforms all have their individual purpose and niche and what they can do well for a firm. And kind of like you said, if you don't think that your audience or referral sources are on a specific platform, you don't necessarily have to be on it, but it's still something that's going to continue to be more and more prominent as time goes on.
That's true. I'll also say this though, John, as you're grabbing the next slide. I mean, think of it this way too: that if you can take something you posted on one platform and you can post it on another, there's not really a downside.
Yeah.
Either. You know,
absolutely.
We don't have a ton of time for it. There's a story about LaCroix, the drink, and how they blew up on TikTok because teenage girls were on TikTok and told their parents to buy LaCroix. So, you know, don't just think about your clients, think about who's connected to your clients, think about referral sources. You just never really know.
Yeah. All right, moving on here. Number 4 is to focus on video. Speaking of TikTok, focus on video as a content medium, as a marketing strategy. Mark, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so video is a little bit different than kind of what we've been talking about so far, because video in itself is just video, right? You have to put it somewhere for it to be effective. So we kind of separated this from even, say, social media, because, for example, you can post video on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I mean, all of them, right? But video itself is what we wanted to focus on, regardless of its video on social media, video on your website, video on YouTube. We even put videos in our email marketing. Okay. But don't sleep on video because it's not like it's new. But what's happening right now is that video is taking off. There's a reason that TikTok is crushing the other social media platforms. People just prefer video typically over other mediums. I'm not saying don't do the other mediums. As a matter of fact, I think sneak peek, I think podcast is coming up, right? And we're going to talk about that. So don't, but here's the short version on video, everyone. It makes all of your marketing better. Take a Facebook page for your law firm, add social media, your Facebook page is better. Take an email newsletter you send out to your email list once a month, add a video in it, now your newsletter is better. People come to your website to learn more about your firm, decide if they want to work with you or refer to you. If one law firm has a video library of, say, FAQs and the other law firm doesn't, obviously that website visitor is going to have a much better experience on the website that has a library of video FAQs. Okay, so video just makes marketing better, whether it's your website, social media, email, etc. Video is just still one of the most effective ways to do marketing that a lot of people prefer. So that's kind of the short version on video. Don't sleep on it. Also, don't be afraid about low production quality. It's okay to grab your phone and just share a couple thoughts about a situation one of your clients was in, or giving your own thoughts about, what to do. If you have a tenant that's overstaying their welcome, you talk about these things and don't worry too much about production quality. It's okay. People care more about the quality of the information you're giving them than they do the quality of the video itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of, number 5 is to launch a podcast. All right. This is my thing. I'm super passionate about podcasts. We have a couple of podcasts that we do here at Spotlight Branding. Check out Law Firm Marketing Minute and Center Stage. Law Firm Marketing Minute is a daily podcast, short little episodes. Center Stage, I interview various industry experts on a bunch of different aspects of what it takes to run a law firm. And this is just, a really, really high, exploding content medium. People are consuming podcasts more than almost radio now, and even streaming music, where it's like they're driving into the office and they're listening to a podcast, or they're working out or cutting grass or cleaning their house. They're doing something, but they're still consuming that information. And so this is a really great way for you to build up a library of content, share your expertise, build that trust, and really help people out and give a lot of really good and solid information that people are looking for.
Okay, so I'm curious. Anyone out there on the webinar today have a podcast already? Great chance to promote it.
Yeah.
Drop it in there in the chat. I want to know if any of our attendees today have a podcast. I'm going to be impressed. I'll give your podcast a shout out here on the show, here on the episode. No, but my attorneys want one. Oh, here we go. Justin. All right. We have a podcast called The Legacy Academy. Very cool. We'll have to look that up. John, maybe you can pull that up in the background while we're talking. Appreciate that. So if I see some conversation going on, feel free. I love when there's conversation going on in the background. Doesn't bother me. So if you guys got questions for each other, fire away. Here's what I'll add to what John said. Okay. A podcast can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to be what you picture traditionally. Okay. For example, John mentioned we started one called the Law Firm Marketing Minute, where every episode is like 5 minutes or less. And it's solo. We're not having a guest. And so like a podcast doesn't have to be 30 minutes to an hour. You don't have to have a guest. It can be a great networking tool if you do, because you can use your podcast as an excuse to reach out to people and kind of build your professional network. But even if you just did short kind of mini episodes where for 5 or 10 minutes you talk about your different practice areas or like different legal situations, if nothing else, it's a marketing tool. Okay. It's a branding tool. Even if someone doesn't listen to your podcast, think about what it does from a marketing standpoint when your firm is the one with a podcast and the other firm they're looking at doesn't. It just really boosts the image, the credibility, the authority. So I love podcasting as a authoritative tool. It's like a really bold business card that you throw down on the table because it's impressive just to see, somebody having one. We got another question. Do podcasts perform better if there is a video component? Okay, perfect question. You would think that we hired Ann to stand in. I swear we didn't. We might have to, pay Ann to come to future webinars though, because what I was going to actually say next is let me kind of do you guys I told you we'd give you some of our secret sauce, right? So let me tell you right now, and I'm going to connect it to Ann's question, and I'm going to connect it to all the things we've talked about so far. So one of the things we do at Spotlight Branding is called content multiplication. And what that is where you use one piece of content and you figure out how to multiply it to create more content. So for example, let's say you do a podcast once a week, twice a month, and you do record the video. You can pull out your phone and record 5 to 10 minutes of you talking about a topic. You could take the audio of that and make a podcast episode. You could take the video of that and publish it to YouTube and your website. You could then take that 5 or 10 minute video, chop it into shorter clips, and now you've got short video for social media. And then you could give that audio to a marketing company or to someone on your team, and they might be able to create a blog. Better yet, you use AI to transcribe that video into text, and then you drop that text into something like ChatGPT and say, hey, this is the transcription of a video I made. I want you to create a 500-word blog pulling from this transcription. Okay. So, and then I think, oh no, we didn't talk about email marketing yet, but you could also put it in an email, for example. So, I mean, you create video and you could use that as a podcast. You could use it on social media. You can have AI help you turn into a blog. You could even have AI help you come up with the topics for your videos or for your podcasts. So hopefully you guys are kind of seeing where this can all weave together. And we're really not just teaching you all these individual things. We're really trying to teach you how you can mush all of this together and actually do all of these things because you don't have to create separate content for all of this, right? So hopefully that's making sense. If it doesn't, let me know in the chat and I'll do my best to clear it up. Or if you love it, tell me in the chat too, because I feed off of positive affirmation. Let's just be honest. I'm human too. But let's keep the train moving, John.
Yeah. So speaking of email marketing, number 6 is that you should be living in your audience's inbox. Like email marketing is absolutely still a really, really valuable tool. I mean, we get this feedback a lot from our clients as well, in just how valuable their email newsletters are, how many referrals they get, how many requests for repeat business they get just from the email marketing that they do. And you don't really even have to do a ton of it, right? Just a monthly email newsletter. And, like Mark said, when we first started, you're tapping into a lot of unrealized business and potential just by doing something that simple that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten if you weren't nurturing your audience like this.
Yeah, I mean, you said it already, but I want to say it again because I really want everyone to hear it. Like, don't shy away from email marketing. Just because you're annoyed when you get emails or just because this isn't new and shiny and unique, I'll tell you guys this. If you were to do one thing today from this webinar, even though I think AI is super important, but if you're only going to do one thing in this whole webinar, if you're not doing an email newsletter at least once a month, it would be to start that. And I'm going to tell you why. Single-handedly at Spotlight Branding, an email newsletter has had the best ROI of anything we do for our clients. And most of what we've talked about today, we do. I mean, we do video FAQs, we write blogs, we do social media, we do podcasting even. But we do, our typical package with our clients is to do one email newsletter a month. And I'm going to tell you guys in just a second the exact formula that we do. You're welcome to steal it and do it for yourself. But what I want you to understand is the reason it's so important is because you would be surprised how referrals go up. when you simply just stay in touch with people. Okay, when and we got a question on how often to do it. At least once a month.
Yep.
At least I wouldn't do it any less than that because it's not enough. I've had clients experiment with more than monthly. And we haven't, the question was how often is too often. We haven't experimented with that enough yet to have an answer to that. But based on working with hundreds of law firms and just knowing your typical target market a little bit, probably no more than a few times a month. Like I probably wouldn't do something more than twice a month. You could test out weekly. But the thing is that it's not like your audience needs this information constantly. So I like once or twice a month because you're more just staying in touch with them. In terms of when to do it in the month, I think every target market's a little bit different. We also haven't found a pattern with that. It's probably better for you to worry about like the time or the day of the week than when in the month. Is your audience more likely to open it on a morning or an evening? Are they more likely to open it on a weekday or a weekend? But I appreciate the questions coming in, but I told you guys I'd give you our formula so you can steal it. So let me do that real quick. All right. Create a template, nicely branded, it's got your logo, but you're going to create a template that you can just reuse over and over because you're going to do content multiplication. What you're going to do is if you have a blog, and if you don't, just have AI do it. I mean, or hire Spotlight Branding. I mean, we'll gladly do it for you. But you're going to take the blog that you hopefully are already doing at least once or twice a month, and you're going to put that blog in your email newsletter as your main piece of content. If you have video, throw one of the videos in there each time. If you have a podcast, throw a podcast episode in there. Then all you do at the very beginning is add a couple sentences saying, hey, thanks for checking out our newsletter this month. Share any news or announcements you have. If you don't have any, that's fine. Just say, below is a blog about X, Y, and Z. If you know anyone who needs any help with their will, or if you know anyone who has any real estate needs, or if you know anyone who needs XYZ, let me know. Just a simple introduction every month, but you're going to use content you already have as the main content for your newsletter. You will be pleasantly surprised at the referrals you receive and other business opportunities that come your way just because you stay in touch through an email newsletter. Even if people don't open it, you're still staying in touch. You're staying top of mind. So don't sleep on email marketing, especially email newsletters, once or twice a month. It's the lowest hanging fruit that's out there. Okay. John even just kind of dropped the shortened version of what I just said into the chat. If you guys want to copy and paste that. But yeah, it's just so easy. And it doesn't matter if you've got 100 people on your email list or 1,000 people on your email list. It takes you the same amount of time, right? Yeah. So I could do a whole webinar about this because I will die on this hill. So I better let John keep us going. But if you do have any more questions about it or any of the previous 5 points, continue to drop them in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them.
Yeah. Awesome. So number 7 is all about networking. All right. This, I think, is a really foundational piece of what your marketing strategy can and should be. I mean, it's a great way to obviously build new referral relationships, new business relationships. It's a good way to nurture and develop ones that already exist. And so, I mean, even just Spotlight Branding itself was built on Mark just going out and really networking his butt off and getting us to this point.
Yeah, kind of put this right after email because it's similar. I don't want you all to sleep on this one. I know we're not blowing your mind by including this in here, but honestly, I don't have too much to say on this except for we put it in here because I'm worried that this is becoming less and less of a priority in law firms, and I think that's a problem. With all the evolution of technology, marketing, etc., the value of networking, whether that's local chambers, BNIs, obviously your bar associations, but it's not just that, right? For all of you that are out there that are B2B, have you targeted any organizations that are made up of either your clients or your referral sources, right? Even if you're B2C, like if you're a family law attorney, like a great referral source are marriage counselors. So you don't just want to, network with other attorneys, but network with marriage counselors, right? Network with accountants because they can be great referral sources. So just like email's not dead, networking's not dead. And I just wanted to encourage everyone to not lose sight of how valuable of a piece that is. I mean, I hope this doesn't come out the wrong way, but I mean, we probably built almost a 7-figure marketing agency just through networking. Like it actually didn't take Google ads and paid marketing to really build up our agency. And I know people who have built 7-figure law firms who really didn't start doing a lot of paid marketing until later. Not that you can't do it earlier. I just really want to highlight how important networking and business development still is. So if anybody has any questions or has trouble networking or just wants to agree with us, drop it in the chat and let us know. But yeah, just don't want to undervalue this. Like it's still so important.
Yeah. Awesome. Moving on. Number 8, give before you receive. All right. So this one, I think this one's going to be a little bit of a newer concept for our audience. I think a lot of law firms stereotypically, they're afraid of kind of giving away too much. Maybe they want to charge for all of their knowledge and expertise, but why?
Or maybe they're afraid of getting sued.
Yeah, right. But why is giving that value before anything else? Why is giving away the farm such an important and valuable strategy as it relates to their marketing?
Yeah, well, and I appreciate Sabrina popping on there saying this is hard for us. It's what we're doing right now, right? Like we didn't just build a webinar that's just sitting here talking all about what we do and how great we are, come hire us, right? We believe that if we give value that we will ultimately receive eventually, when the right people need help from us. And so that's number one. I mean, we all learned this, right? Give to receive. I mean, so number one, like that should be enough. Like if you know that's a good life lesson, why wouldn't you apply that to your business? But if we get more strategic about why this is, because all these things we're talking about, your social media, your email newsletter, podcast, video, all these things, like if you're not giving away information that could be helpful to somebody, like why are they going to pay attention? So it's also kind of silly not to focus on giving value, in your content. So, this is really something that you can apply to all the content you create. Focus on giving away value. And look, if you are worried about things being seen as advice and things like that, have disclaimers. Like there's ways to protect yourself, whether it's in your social media profiles, the footer of your website, the footer of your newsletter, but give away information. I mean, we're not necessarily telling you to tell people to go do their legal work themselves, but don't be afraid to give all the answers that you can to common situations or questions that your clients are in or that they have. And I think you'll find that when you focus your content on what you're giving, you'll receive in the long run. And I'll give you kind of this one bonus nugget. The only thing that's challenging about this is that you won't always realize what you're receiving because of this. For example, I'll go back to email marketing from a minute ago. It's not like when your referrals go up, you're going to know it's because of the email newsletter. It's not like someone's going to call you and say, hey, I had a referral for you, but it's only because of your email or it's only because of your social media, right? But when you're nurturing and you're staying in touch with people and you're giving, people are going to think of you when they have a need. They're going to want to refer to you. They're going to want to do business with you. So you won't be able to always directly connect it back to some of these strategies we're talking about today. But we've been doing this over 10 years as a company. And so we've seen the correlation. We know that when you do these things, referrals go up. We know that you attract better clients. That might mean higher paying. It might mean more of a certain case type, right? So you have to look for the correlation in some of these things as well. But Yeah, if you're gonna create content, focus your content on giving value.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I think a lot of people get turned off when everything they see from you is very self-serving. Like I say a lot of times, going back to the social media aspect, I tell people don't treat your social media like a billboard, in the sense where it's just like everything is just call our office, call our office, call our office, call our office. Like people will start to tune you out at a certain point if that's all you're doing. But if you're providing value, if you're providing information, if like Vanessa here said, if you're just kind of participating in that community and building that community, whether it's networking or even on your social media channels or nurturing your audience in a certain way, people will start to build that trust with you and start to look to you more for the help and the expertise that they need.
Yeah, and John, real quick, before we move on to the next slide, we've probably had a handful of people, 10, 15 more people join in the last 20 minutes. So just real quick, it's cool if you missed a few things. We've got this recorded, but I'm glad you're here live. Do us a quick favor. If you've joined in the last 20 minutes or so, drop your location and main practice areas in the chat. Everyone kind of did this at the beginning. It's just fun to know where people are from and what practice areas they're focused on. Also, we've had a few things came up earlier that you may have missed that I just want you to know about. For example, we have a lot of people that want our social media template. So if you just mentioned in the chat that you do want that template, we'll make sure to get that sent over to you. It's a free resource. So anyone that's joined in the last 20 minutes, please tell us where you're from in the chat and don't be afraid to engage. You are welcome to ask questions at any point throughout and we'll do our best to get to them. But only a few more to go. And we're doing great on time. So let's rock and roll.
Awesome. Yep. Home stretch here. Number 9, invest in your marketing. Obviously, investing in your marketing should be a top strategy for the new year. But I think a big question that we get very often is just how much of my revenue should I be putting back into my marketing? And so obviously, if you can read it, you can see it, we say 10% should be the baseline, but Mark, kind of expand on that. Why do you say 10%? And, maybe what's the kind of wiggle room there? What other thoughts do you have?
Yeah. So, there's no exact science to this, but generally, if you kind of were to look at a lot of businesses that were successful, white collar businesses, even law firms to some degree, you'd find that 10% is usually a pretty reasonable number. No joke. Just yesterday, I was looking at the books for Spotlight Branding over the last 10 years, and we've averaged around 10% in marketing. Truly, right? And so it was really interesting to see that. But 10% is just a good, reasonable number that's kind of been proven over time to be a baseline for what you want to put into your marketing to make sure you're actually growing. And the nice thing is whether your firm is bringing in 100,000, 500,000 or $1 million, 10% is still just 10%, right? And obviously when you're at lower revenue, that marketing spend might be going towards networking and things like that. And then as your firm grows, you can invest in higher paid marketing, whether that be a content agency like ours or a Google Ads agency or something like that. But the reason that we wanted to bring this up is because a lot of law firms are well under this, and it's just a norm to at least spend 10% in marketing in a lot of businesses, and a lot of law firms do struggle to grow. And it's not the only reason, but one of them is very simply being too frugal around marketing spend. And so just kind of wanted to share that. And if anyone's got any questions, bring it on. While I'm giving people a minute to type in any questions about marketing budget, if they have it, I do want to answer, where'd it go?
Alex's question.
Alex.
Lead
Alex
magnets.
Question. Yeah. So let me just address this real quick. And if you have any budget questions, feel free to drop them in. But Alex asked a question about lead magnets or gated content. Real quick, let me give the definition of that for those that don't know. So a lead magnet or gated content is some sort of resource you're offering that you're requiring a piece of information in return. So even this webinar, right, was gated because you had to register for it. If you had some sort of PDF, like a free resource or a download, you could require that people give you their email address to get it. Okay, so a lead magnet is something that you use. It's a resource you give away, but you require a piece of information for it. Not only is that great for B2B, but even B2C. Okay, if you've got if you're a real estate attorney that does closings and someone's trying to pick their closing attorney, you might have a free resource on your website that's like the 10 things you have to know before you close on your house. And that could be a resource on your website that they have to give an email address in order to receive. And now you've added someone to your email list and you can nurture them. So great question there. It's not just good for B2B, it's good for B2C, because that way you capture what we would call warm prospects. Okay, hot prospects or hot leads are people that are interested in a consultation right now. But what about people that are just information gathering? What do you have that you can give them that gives them more information, but in exchange for their contact information? And then you can use your marketing to nurture them. So we could also do a whole webinar about that. So I'll leave it at that for now, but hopefully that's helpful. And you could take some of the content we talked about today and you could make some of it gated. Like you could take a blog and dress it up a little bit and maybe make that one single blog gated, and the rest are kind of free to access.
Yeah. So he's got a follow-up here too. I mean, should law firms use gated content? He's gotten some pushback that law firms don't do this, which I find interesting.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've never heard that pushback. If this is helpful, we've got about 200. Well, we've got 200 clients right now. We've had more than that over the years. Every single time we do a website for client, there's at least one piece of gated content. I think the key is that 90% of the content is not gated. Right. But we've always have some gated content, so, I mean, at the end of the day, you're giving away information. You're giving away something of value. I don't see anything wrong with, for certain things, requiring that somebody give you something for that, right? Like an email address or something like that. So I think it's all about balance. I think having a few pieces of gated content is fine. Just kind of mix it into your marketing appropriately.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to our 10th and final strategy. Spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with SEO. I don't know. That's just an inside joke for us. Probably doesn't mean much to everybody else. But number 10 is...
I'll explain it after.
Yeah. But number 10 is to delegate. Yes, delegating tasks is, in a broader sense, a marketing strategy, because most of you, I'm guessing, probably didn't take any marketing classes in college. You're not, you don't come from a marketing background. You're also not necessarily a bookkeeper or an office manager or, a front desk intake sort of person. And I've seen a lot of times, like true solos or small firm lawyers, they try to do all of those things all at once, and it doesn't leave a ton of time for them to focus on the actual legal work that they're getting paid to do, or the legal work that they enjoy doing. And so honestly, whether you hire someone like us, or you hire like an offshore virtual assistant or some other kind of vendor, it really is important to delegate a lot of the stuff that you're not necessarily great at on your own outside of the legal work that you're doing.
And hey, real quick, I want to add to that, but shameless plug. We do have an offer at the end for people that are interested in working together. I meant to mention that earlier. I know as we get into those last 10 minutes of the webinar, it's real easy to sign off early. So if you do kind of want to know what we have, if anyone's interested in working together, hang tight and I'll share that at the end. But to further comment on what John was saying, yeah, we put this in here. Number one, the SEO joke. Gosh, talk about things we could do a whole webinar on. Yes, we'll be honest. Spotlight branding has a little bit of a problem with SEO because, think about this for a second. I think our first person in the chat, right, was Justin from Tampa. Justin, how many estate planning attorneys do you think there are in Tampa Bay, Florida? I'm going to guess hundreds, maybe even 1,000, right? They can't possibly all be on the first page of Google, right? Just like statistically speaking, it's not possible. So my big problem with SEO is that not every law firm can succeed, but it's something everyone chases after. So we try to focus on the type of marketing that you can always succeed at. You can always succeed at social media. You can always succeed with a podcast. You can always succeed with videos and email marketing. It doesn't matter what the other attorney is doing. Like, those things can always be fruitful, right? So that's kind of the joke. And the irony of it all is those things do help SEO. It's just not really our focus. So, you brought up SEO, John. So if I didn't now comment on it, they were going to be thinking about it.
No, I get it.
But in terms of delegation, the reason we ended with this is because it can be overwhelming to do marketing yourself. I can't tell you how many lawyers I still know that do their own bookkeeping. Please stop doing your own books. You're overpaid and underqualified. You're a super expensive bookkeeper. Look, I don't mean to get morbid, but the truth is that there are studies out there that attorneys suffer depression more than most other industries. Suicide is also high. A lot of that comes from stress, time management. So, delegate, because the stress you're going to get from knowing that somebody else is doing something, maybe not perfectly, is still better than the stress you get from missing your kid's soccer game, right? Or working late, or, not being able to do something for a client the way you want to. So when it comes to these other areas of your business, please delegate. So that's my pitch on that. Kind of a unique way to end the 10 slides, I know, but it's just so important for your mental health and also a lot of times your success, because more times than not, what you delegate, hopefully that person's better than you anyway. But even if they're not, right? We want you guys to be happy and live full lives and not feel like you have to wear every hat in the firm. So we're going to kind of transition to wrap up here. But if anybody does have any questions, I'm going to hang out for the next 10 minutes. So feel free to drop them into the chat. Don't feel like you have to sign off just yet. But if anybody does want to explore more working with us, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. You can also scan this QR code. This is just a link to book a call with us. It's completely free. We can explore working together. If it's not a fit, no problem. But I'll be very honest with you guys. Things get a little bit slow around Thanksgiving for us. They probably do for most businesses. So we're running a special just for those that are on the webinar. If you decide you want to work together before December 1, your whole first month's free. So if you have any interest, scan the QR code or click the link that I put in the chat, and it's just going to be booking a call with us. I'm happy to jump on that call myself if you'd like me to. But that's just an offer for you guys, no pressure. But if you want to explore that, we'd love to chat, and there's a little bit of a perk in there just for those that attended. But any more questions in the chat about anything, drop them there. We talked about AI. We talked about nurturing versus lead gen. We talked about email, social media, video, right? How about I'm going to challenge somebody out there, someone who hasn't spoken on the chat yet. Come on, you've got something. All right, I'm going to answer Ann's question.
Ask another question. No, I love it.
We do really owe Ann a check. What email providers do you recommend? We use, as a company, for all of our clients, we use MailChimp, all one word, MailChimp. But there's a lot of them out there, Constant Contact, many others. I don't have a strong preference. We just like MailChimp because we find it easy to use. We find the rates to be effective. We also find that MailChimp integrates with most mainstream practice management platforms out there. So if you're using Clio or Practice Panther or Rocket Matter or any of those, you can probably integrate them directly with MailChimp to get your email list in there kind of at all times. Danielle says we do owe Anna a check.
Yeah.
Well, Danielle, are you contributing to that check? Oh, they love MailChimp as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anybody else? We'll hang out. I mean, we've got 5 more minutes, so I don't want you to sign off, but if you need to go, you can. But we are going to hang out for 5 minutes. I mean, John can start telling jokes if you guys want him to.
No.
I don't know if you want him to. I love it. People are connecting, trying to be friends. John, you got any lawyer jokes ready to go?
I don't. I'm not. That's not my style. I'm the storyteller type. So like all my stories are way too long. However, I do want to note real quick, just to take the heat off of me for a second. If you guys still want the social media template, let us know in the chat. I have Danielle, Lisa, Jeff, Sean, and Jerome down on my list to get that too. I think that's everybody. Hopefully, but if I missed you guys, definitely just throw a little hand up in the chat. Let me know that you want to get that as well.
Yeah,
Deidre, got it.
Yeah, what John's talking about there, for those that missed earlier, we were talking about social media. I didn't have a lot of time to talk about what to post on social media, but we do have a template that's kind of to help you DIY your own social media. So if you want that template, we'll send it over to you. It's completely free. Just kind of want to know who wants it. Honestly, the only thing I ask, send you something like that, give us your feedback on it. Man, it's so helpful. Talk about free resources, giving value. What's so helpful to us is when you guys tell us what was valuable, what wasn't, what was missing, what we could have spent more time on, because then we can make these things better in the future. I mean, the webinars too. So any more questions about anything marketing related, not just the 10 things we talked about today? Anybody feeling inspired? Anybody feeling overwhelmed? Throw it there in the chat or the questions. Got one more. Carly says, what do you think are some of the best ways to market learning opportunities through one's firm, such as seminars? Yes, fantastic. So like if you want to do your own webinar or you want to do your own like seminar in person, I don't think it matters too much either way if it's virtual or in person in terms of how you market it. But hands down, Carly, your email list. Okay, I mean your existing audience, right? I mean everyone, clients, colleagues, referral sources, like your entire email list is hands down the way to go, because really a seminar or a workshop is a nurturing activity. So you're going to have the most success with people that have already been introduced to your firm in some capacity, and hopefully they bring a guest or two. But if you wanted to expand beyond that, social media would be a way to go. You could try running ads for webinars and workshops, but that's kind of a new tool, right? Like there's going to be a lot to learn and figure out about how to run a good ad, but you could run social media ads, and you could run them locally if you're doing an in-person event. And you can go old school sometimes and hand out flyers and things like that, depending on who your target market is and if it's easy to do that. But your existing email list is the key, and really you want to use other marketing activities to grow that email list, right? So networking and things like that are how you're going to grow your email list. Okay. Got some people saying they missed the first half. But yeah, we've got the recording. We'll send that out. But I appreciate the compliments. Again, I'll drop the link in here one more time. No pressure. If anybody wants to schedule a call with us, no obligation, free call, free consultation, but I'll join it and hang out with you for a little bit. And if there's an opportunity to work together, great. We'll make your first month free for being on this webinar. Just make sure to remind us. But got time for one or two more questions if anybody else has anything. Carly, hopefully that answered your question. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll give everyone one more minute, but I just want to say thank you to our audience. It's funny, I was paying attention to our own company chat during this, and everybody in our own company is like, this webinar is so great. We have so much engagement. So thank you to you all for engaging and commenting. It helps us, right? I mean, we enjoy this. We enjoy getting to connect with all of you and hear from you. So anybody got anything else? Any other ways we can help? John, any final nuggets of wisdom from you or any final jokes now that you've had time to think about it?
I wasn't thinking about it at all. I will do my best to get the recording out later this afternoon, but if it doesn't get uploaded in time, it will go out tomorrow morning. So if you are on the registration list, it will be in your inbox soon.
Yeah, maybe, you know what? You got to ask ChatGPT for some jokes for next time. We can,
yeah, I guess so. I guess I
always wrap up. Well, it's been a pleasure, everyone. Again, thanks for your engagement. We hope it was helpful. Listen, last thing, you all will probably get an email from a member of our team. It might be me. It might be someone named Casey. It might be someone named Jana. do me a favor, respond to that email, give them feedback on this webinar. So you'll get a personal email asking for that feedback. Was there anything missing? Was there anything that you would have liked us to talk about more, or even knowing what we did well so that we can replicate that? So just favor to ask, just when you get that email from our team, just respond to that, give us your thoughts. It really helps us out. And we prefer to kind of ask and have that personal interaction, right? Versus just kind of send out a blanket survey. So I hope you all are up for doing that. But again, thanks so much. Appreciate everyone's time. Hope it was helpful.